Fantasy Freaks and Geeks, what's going on? James Coe here with you. It is time now to talk about some sleeper wide receivers, and you know what? I'm going to throw some tight ends in there as well because, well, quite frankly, there's just not that many. I scoured the matchup data and tried to find some stuff. Man, there's just not that many sleeper tight ends this week, but I got a couple interesting ones. Don't worry now. Sleeper King's got your back. All right, let's talk about wide receivers, like I said. And we are going to start with Stone Cold Calvin Austin taking on Baltimore. George Pickens is out yet another week with that hamstring injury, putting Stone Cold Calvin Austin right back in the limelight. Last week, Austin ran the most routes, played the most snaps, and led the team in receptions with 5 and yards with 65. A pretty solid 11.5 PPR day if you are looking for a deep sleeper here. It is a great matchup too, by the way, as the Ravens have given up the second most fantasy points per game to wide receivers lined up outside. While he's been primarily a slot guy this year with Pickens out, Calvin Austin did line up outside on more than 60% of his snaps. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I actually have a solid Stone Cold Steve Austin impersonation. Maybe I won't do it right now. Everyone's listening like, no, I don't think you do, pal. Yeah, you're not that guy. All right, listen, get a couple beers in me. All right, I'll give you a Stone Cold. I'll give you a good Stone Cold, all right? Don't you worry about it now. One of my favorite sleepers this week has to be Brandin Cooks taking on Tampa Bay. We know that Tampa Bay has basically stunk up the joint defending the pass, but to make matters even worse, all-pro safety Antoine Winfield Jr. missed practice again on Thursday. It sounds as if it's not likely that he will play, but again, we're keeping an eye on those practice reports. Now, even with Winfield in the mix, the Buccaneers have given up a ton of production to outside wide receivers, as I said. They've given up the 5th most fantasy points per game to the outside, including the 2nd most receptions and the 3rd most touchdowns. I really like that touchdown figure because I know it didn't come through last week, but Brandin Cooks is a certified touchdown maker, taking on a team that does give up a lot of touchdowns to outside wide receivers. So I will also say this in regards to opportunity and snap share. Brandin Cooks really has reestablished himself as the primary outside weapon for Dallas. Last week, he led the team in routes run. Yes, led the team in routes run. He had one more route than CeeDee Lamb. He was also second to CD in targets, receptions, and yards. So there's something to be had there, I think. One of my favorite sleepers this week, certainly, will be Brandin Cooks. All right, from a deep sleeper perspective, how about MVS versus Green Bay? And for this, I've got one word for you. Revenge. Look, MVS is taking on his former team, and in all seriousness, I do think that MVS will have a little bit of extra motivation seeing his former team. You know why? And first of all, the matchup's not bad, but I'll say this, man, ever since he got let go by Kansas City, and when he popped up here in New Orleans, I just feel like we have seen a different dude, man. This guy's playing way more motivated. He's playing way more aggressive. He's playing way more confident right now. This is a different MVS, right? And remember, this dude has seen 7 targets in back-to-back games, and I feel much better with Spencer Rattler back there than Jake Haener. Spencer Rattler's going to let it rip. He's got a lot more arm strength. I think we'll see some more downfield shots, and that's where we want to win here with MVS. And by the way, like I said, the matchup, it ain't bad. It ain't bad. Green Bay tied for the 4th most touchdowns allowed to outside wide receivers. Now, I will last note on MVS. Please keep an eye on the injury report. MVS is working through a chest injury. I don't believe he practiced on Thursday. So, again, we're keeping a close eye on that one. All right, another player that I think could come through for you here. It's Pop Douglas, Demario Douglas taking on Buffalo. The Bills have allowed the 3rd most receptions and the 2nd most yards to the slot this year. They are dead last in completion percentage allowed and dead last in yards per attempt allowed to inside receivers as well. Now remember, the Pats are a huge 14-point dog. So we are expecting a lot more passes to be thrown here on the New England side, especially in the second half. This might be one of those things where it looks bad in the first half, and in the second half, we're coming alive, baby. All right. Pop Douglas in the second half in garbage time could produce a little bit now. Douglas could run into like 10 plus targets. Let's say he sees 10 plus targets. I mean, now we're talking anywhere between 8 to 9 receptions for like 60 to 80 yards. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. Adam Thielen is taking on Arizona, and I debated whether or not I should even put him in the sleeper category because I just feel like he's graduated. Adam Thielen feels just like a regular old flex play now, and maybe that's the road that we're going here. But he's got a great matchup on the board. And by the way, the Cardinals, they've given up the 6th most fantasy points per game to inside wide receivers. And man, Thielen has been Bryce Young's go-to receiver. Over the last 3 games, the volume has been insane-o. Thielen is averaging a whopping 9.3 targets per game over his last 3. It's resulted in 7.3 receptions and 84 yards per contest. That is really good. I mean, shoot, we're already pushing, 15 fantasy points in PPR formats? Just off of the receptions and yards on average. Nah, he's been great, man. Again, is it kind of sort of, putting up stats on a bad team? Yeah, there's a little bit to that, for sure, 100% for sure. But again, let's let these good times roll. Like I said, Arizona has given up the 6th most fantasy points per game to inside wide receivers, so the matchup's pretty good too. Okay, I'm going to stay on this team, and we're going to talk about a deep sleeper. You know where I'm going. I'm talking about my Coker heads here. Where are my Coker heads at? Jalen Coker taking on Arizona. Xavier Legette is most likely out with a hip injury. Hasn't officially been ruled out, but most likely he is out this week with a hip injury. Again, I think this is going to open up a good amount of target share for the unheralded rookie out of Holy Cross. Jalen Coker, he's been up and down. I think he's primarily a slot receiver. I comped him to Jacoby Myers, right? Has some inside-outside flexibility. Not the best athlete in the world, but finds a way to get open. I think Jalen Coker is a really interesting play here against Arizona, especially with Xavier Legette out. If I may be so bold, I almost want to put David Moore on this list as well. I am not fully there because I think Adam Thielen's going to see a lot of work. I think Jalen Coker might be the number 2, but I'm tempted. Let me just say I'm tempted by David Moore. Maybe that doesn't count. That's all right. We'll reconvene next week, and if I hit, then shoot, whatever. Anyways, but Jalen Coker, really interesting deep sleeper here this week against the Arizona Cardinals. All right, another deep sleeper here for you. How about Wan'Dale Robinson taking on the Atlanta Falcons? Robinson has averaged a cool 10.0 targets per game over his last 2 games. Great volume there. Now, we know that Wan'Dale's a little up and down for sure, but the matchup is solid, okay? The Falcons have allowed the 6th most receptions to the slot, and the 9 touchdowns they have allowed to inside receivers. That's tied for the 2nd most in the NFL. So now, I don't know where Wan'Dale Robinson ends up this week, but if we're talking about a guy that could be a little bit of a PPR scam, I mean, that's Wan'Dale Robinson right there. I really don't mind throwing Wan'Dale into a flex league of like a 14-teamer. I think he could be a playable asset this week. And like I said, the matchup's pretty good against Atlanta. Hey, we're talking about those touchdowns, right? I said they're tied for the 2nd most in the NFL. They are tied with Las Vegas Raiders. And the Raiders, they take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, making Parker Washington a very interesting deep sleeper play as well. Again, the Raiders have allowed 9 scores to the inside. 9 of them. It's pretty good. Meanwhile, Washington has been, I'm talking about Parker Washington, not Washington, the football team, but Parker Washington has been very feast or famine this year. I get it. But he is out there a lot. And that's what we want to see. We want to see high snap share, good route participation, all that kind of stuff, man. Among wide receivers, he was second on the team in snaps and routes run last week. Obviously, BTJ leading the way there, but second on the team in snaps and routes run. He's out there a lot. He's out there to make plays, taking on Las Vegas. I don't know. Let's see if he runs into a touchdown. All right, we go to the tight end spot here, and we'll stay with that same team. Brandin Strange, we had talked about before, taking on Las Vegas. Man, he's coming off that 12-target, 11-reception performance. He was fan-freaking-tastic, no question. I feel like this one's a no-brainer. Okay, if you're streaming tight end, and shoot, almost everyone is streaming tight end. I don't know how you get away from Brandin Strange. If you've got him, play him, man. Honestly, I have him again. I'm not totally done with my projections. You can find the projections at sleeperkingfootball.com. I'm not totally done there yet, but I think he may end up as a top 6 or 7 tight end this week in terms of projected rankings. Man, the Jags, they are obsessed with throwing to tight ends. Obsessed, right? It doesn't matter if it's Evan Ingram, Brandin Strange, who cares? They're going to see double-digit targets, man. And by the way, the Raiders, we talked about the touchdowns they had given up. They've given up the 4th most fantasy points per game to this position group as well. I will say this, one caveat. Keep an eye on the injury status, though. Brandin Strange is working through a shoulder injury, so there is a little bit of concern there, but I don't know. He may be a go, but just keep an eye on that injury report. If he doesn't practice on Friday, just take him off the list. That's fine. We just keep it moving, okay? Deep sleeper, Okonkwo, taking on the Indianapolis Colts. I'm not 100% sure what to make of Chig's 10-target game from last week. That was literally a career high for Chig Okonkwo in terms of targets, man. That is crazy. This team has rarely used Chig. We've seen a small uptick in usage over the past, I want to say like 4 or 5 weeks, just like a tiny bit. But that 10-target game came out of absolutely nowhere. I do wonder, because again, there's been a little bit of an uptick in his usage over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Is there a small shift in the offensive identity with Tennessee? I mean, certainly we know that Levis is being benched. They're bringing back in Mason Rudolph. Are we doing a little something offensively? I'm not 100% sure. I will say this, the matchup, it's pretty nice. The Colts have given up the 5th most fantasy points per game to tight ends this year. So, deep sleeper, Chig Okonkwo. We'll throw him out there. And like I said, that's it, man. There's just not that many fantasy tight ends that are on the sleeper list this week. I really try to make some things work, and I just, hey, listen, I'll throw out guys like Daniel Bellinger. But again, it's not a good matchup. There's not a lot of great matchup data to support it. I like Daniel Bellinger. I think he's a good player. Maybe he falls into the end zone. But again, no teams on a bye. We're in the semifinals of our fantasy playoffs. I would feel a little weird saying, hey, go play Belly of the Beast. You know what I'm saying? He could do it. He absolutely could do it. But I want to be able to provide you guys with some stats and some numbers to kind of sort of back it up. And again, the film and all that kind of stuff, man. Backup quarterback there in New York. I don't know. I got a gut feeling about Daniel Bellinger. That's it. That's all I got. That's all I got is a gut feeling on Daniel Bellinger. But shoot, I don't know. You know what's crazy? I actually feel better about Daniel Bellinger than Chig Okonkwo, but Chig, I can make some kind of statistical analysis here. You know what I'm saying? Can't do it with Belly of the Beast. Anyways, we got to go. Listen, the full sleeper list is, if you're listening to this, it's out on the website right now. Go check it out, sleeperkingfootball.com. And this is where you can get my entire sleeper list: quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, all that kind of stuff, man. So that's good. And by the way, hopefully, at some point on Friday, we will also have the updated rankings set up there as well. So if you guys want to go check it out, sleeperkingfootball.com. All right, that's it for the show. No show tomorrow, guys. I'm going to take a little bit of time off here as we get ready to go do some other things. But yes, appreciate everyone following along. If you guys would be so kind, wherever you get your podcast, if you could rate and review the podcast, give me those 5 stars, man. That would be awesome. I would truly, truly appreciate it. And if you would share this with a pal of yours, I wouldn't hate that either. Hey, everyone, good luck to you in your semifinals this week. Hopefully you guys get those dubs. All right, until then, we will talk very, very soon. But remember, it's never too late to chase your dreams. Peace.